Code Vein. Commonly referred to as anime Dark Souls, is the only Souls-like game I've played that wasn't by From Software. Before playing the original Dark Souls, I always thought I hated hard games. This was mostly due to artificial difficulty, things like easy, medium, or hard difficulty settings. Usually all they do is increase enemy health and make it to where you take more damage. I never understood this thought process. It's like, hey, did you like that game? Would you like to play it again, except you die more? But what if the game itself is just naturally hard? Well, that's where Dark Souls comes in. I found that the game's core gameplay loop was very fun and addictive, it just naturally happened to be difficult. The games became so popular that they actually started up a new genre of game, Souls-like. That leads us to the game of today, Code Vein. It's like Dark Souls, but it's edgier, more tits. The moment you start up the game, it takes you to the character creator. Meet Nikki. Codename, Go Fuck Yourself. I'm a very mature person. This character creator is actually something of a selling point for the game. It's incredibly versatile, specifically with the accessories. I was looking through the hairstyles, and I wanted a hairstyle that would tuck my hair behind my ears, because that's what I do with my hair in real life. But there were no long hairstyles that did that. So I put on short hair instead, and then I went into the accessories menu and grabbed one of the ponytails and tucked it inside my head. Bam, new hairstyle. Some people find character creators questionable. I mean, it's purely for looks. It doesn't really add to the game in any substantial way. But I make the argument that this character creator is really the only thing that offers this game replayability. Playing through the game again with different characters is actually sort of enticing, and there's something to be said about how attached I got to the character despite the fact that they don't ever really talk. Simply seeing them in cutscenes gave me a certain glee. They're essentially my child. I birthed them. But this all sort of relies on the character creator being good. I never really understood why you could edit your face in games like Fallout and Skyrim, because no matter what, you're gonna end up looking like the back end of a rusty truck. But in games like Code Vein, Monster Hunter World, or even Saints Row, those games have really good character creators. And I actually have more fun replaying through those games because of it. I kinda wish we had more character creators like this in other games. The one thing that holds Code Vein's character creator back is its outfits. There's like 8. And they don't even come in parts. Some of them have good tops but not good bottoms, some of them have good bottoms but not good tops, and very few have good both. The most you can do is turn on and off the accessories with them. I'm more of a sweatpants and socks kind of gal, but I guess I'll just paint my high heels white, take off my glasses, and pretend I'm not tripping all the time. But despite that, the character creator is actually really good. And to maximize it, I'm going to be changing outfits every time I enter a new area. Once we get into the game proper, there's a small tutorial, which I skipped, and then we wake up with this lady, and whoa! Those things are huge! That can't be good for your back. Now, this was most likely done for certain appeals, but I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. In almost all of the main Dark Souls games, there's some kind of mother figure or caretaker. Someone to help you become stronger and make you feel safe. Io, this lady, seems to serve that role in this game. And breasts are actually a sign of motherhood. And one of the other really well-endowed characters is an actual mother, so maybe there is actually a reason for it. What on God's green earth are those pants? But I'm probably giving the game too much credit. So our sugar mama gives us a little hickey and we bleed on this tree here. Afterwards, the tree starts to produce blood beads. Really? Blood beads? Why not blood fruit? Whatever. So it's not immediately clear why or how we're doing this, and to be frank, it's not going to be clear for a while. This game is trying to do the Dark Souls storytelling of introducing the lore in little pieces as you explore the world, but what this means is that some characters will talk about certain events like you know what they are, but you don't. Now, I'm not a huge fan of anime plots, but after playing through this game a couple times, I can say that this one is alright. Not great, just alright. I'll do my best to explain the parts of the plot that I understand, but I will admit I didn't follow all of it, so forgive me if I'm incorrect on some stuff. So we get captured by some guys that want us to go hunt down blood beads so that we can pay the levy. I'm not 100% sure what the levy is, but it sounds like vampire communism. Oh, I'm sorry, revenant communism. I guess the people who wrote this game hated Twilight so much that they refused to call anyone vampires. And you know what? I can't blame them. So we're separated from our waifu and sent off to go get blood beads. This is where we're introduced to this game's main gameplay gimmick. Throughout the game, you're given a large variety of companions. Each of them come with their own weapons and abilities. But one of my complaints about this game was actually the fact that there's a lot of mechanics that really just go unused. This is mostly because out of the Souls-like games I've played, this is the easiest, almost exclusively because of the companion system. So a friend of mine suggested I actually try to play through the game without a companion. So that's what I did. And you can actually remove this dude right from the start. So I hit some dudes with a pipe for a little bit, and I got my first real weapon. And spoiler alert, this was the weapon I used for the rest of the game. It's an axe. It staggers easily, and you can do judo front flips with it that knock enemies flat pancake, and usually off cliffs. After a while, our first companion sacrifices himself to save us. But I wasn't using him anyway, so moving on. But it turns out that when he took that hit, he went crazy because his mask broke. You then have to fight him as the game's introductory boss. The game forces you to team up with this twink, but there is a way to fix that. It's called dying. I beat the first boss and saved my waifu.
A vestige. Best to stay away from those stones.
This is a memory. It's the main way to learn about the game's lore. As vampires, we're immortal, so instead of dying, we just respawn. But sometimes we lose our memories along the way. These little fragments are those memories. I kinda like these segments. I thought they were just gonna be exposition dumps, and sometimes they are, but they're pretty well presented. They do a pretty good job of using audio and visual cues to convey what's going on without directly telling you. They're pretty stylish and well done, even if the voice acting is usually pretty bad and the music is incredibly sappy. I never thought I would play an anime Souls-like with walking simulator elements. After this, we're brought to the main hub area. This is where you can upgrade your equipment and exchange gifts with your favorite honey buns.
It's warm here, isn't it?
Gee, I wonder why. Eventually, we head to the city to find more blood beads. We run into a self-important revenant who's so over-animated it scares me. I started to play around with the game's photo mode here. Much like the character creation, it's sort of a novelty, but I still quite like it. I like taking photos of stuff. I do this in most games that offer some sort of camera. We start to see a lot more enemy variety here, and I'm not gonna lie, I really like this game's aesthetic. The industrial urban survival stuff with all the gas masks is really cool. And it plays into the character customization a little bit since you have to pick out your gas mask. I clearly picked the best possible option to go along with glasses. I always like it when games that boast high customization offer some sort of aesthetic theme. Eventually I fell down a pit and entered the sunken city. I got in my most buoyant clothes and started to go through the water. Some of the enemies hide in the water, forcing you to take things slow. And that fits because the water makes you slow. I like this. It keeps you on edge, but it still is fun to explore. We also get a little cutscene where we're attacked by a Russian hack and slasher and her son. The kid turns out to be the lady's little brother, Nikola. At first I thought I'd hate him, because I usually hate children in entertainment. They're usually not written well, and I'm expected to care about them because they're children. But he dies in the next cutscene, so I guess that's that. And here we hit the first major issue. At this point in the game, you have two ways to go. Both lead to a boss fight. These two bosses are, I kid you not, the worst. They both hit you with a different kind of status effect, and at this point in the game, your healing is really ineffective, and you can't get anything that makes healing more effective. Here in the sewers, you have to fight a wet stripper that hits you with the status effect of slow, which, go figure, makes you slow. Specifically, it makes your dodge rolling really slow, so if you can't dodge roll, you have to block. Except blocking sucks. There are no shields, and some attacks will break your guard even when your stamina is still full. Good luck finding out which attacks do or don't break your guard. The other boss hits you with poison, which you can't out-heal, so if you get hit with it, you just have to eat crow and die. She also has this poison homing ball attack that just kind of follows you for a while, so you just have to keep dodge rolling out of the way of it until it goes away and hope that she doesn't spawn another one when you go to attack. I know that the Souls-like elitists are probably going to throw out the old get good, but I did beat them. It just seems odd to me that you fight these guys so early, considering the fact that, with only a few exceptions, I never fought a boss that was harder than these first two. But before I beat them, I decided to do a little bit of grinding. So this game's class system works with these things called blood codes. You acquire them by finding them throughout the game world, and sometimes your buddies back at home will just give you their blood so you can get their blood code. I think this system is fine. It functions. Though once I got the Atlas blood code from Yakumo, I never really found anything that was better for my build. But considering I used the starting axe for the entire game, I guess we'll call my build Meat and Potatoes Basic. But the big thing is the gifts. Some gifts are locked up until you find certain memories, but some of them you just buy with Haze. Haze being this game's version of Souls. But once you buy a gift, it's limited to that blood code until you master it. You mastered the gift? Blow of Madness. I'm still very mature, by the way. There are 2 ways to master a gift. Grind the blood code until you master the gift that you want, or spend the right kind of MJ on it. I don't really know how to feel about this. I kinda wish that there was just one kind of MJ and it cost more MJ depending on how good the skill is, and I also kinda just wish that they removed the grinding aspect altogether. Either force me to spend the materials on it, or just make it unlock from the start, cause all the grinding is just unnecessary padding. And the materials are also just a bit odd. How am I supposed to tell the difference between Mary Jane 018 and Mary Jane 312? And what's the difference in value? Is there a Mary Jane 168 or a Mary Jane 420? Like I said, I think it should just be one material that you need more of for better gifts. But I instead opted to grind for it, and I did so by going to the depths. The depths are entirely optional. You don't even need to do them for the true ending of the game. I thought they were going to be like the randomly generated crypts from Bloodborne, but they're not. They're actually pre-made. But the fact that I couldn't tell at first probably says something about how they're laid out. I don't really think that they're a good thing, but I don't really think they're a bad thing either, so they're just kind of a thing. But I did it. I got the gift I wanted, and I beat the 2 strippers. The Russian started to go crazy, so we took care of her, and Yakumo pulls out a Desert Eagle to threaten a rapist for a little bit before Louis lets him go with a warm meal. Louis's a pussy. We save a human woman who gave me some stuff and then vanishes from the game entirely, so I guess we ate her. And then we went to the mountains. I dressed myself up, ready to go hiking. I like the mountains. It's got a lot of cliffs with secret paths that loop around through each other for those observant enough to find them. You can also find the first item that actually increases the effectiveness of your healing here. That would have been great like 20 minutes ago. I thought this area was actually going to be a lot tougher solo, but it wasn't that bad. I had a close call around the middle, but eventually I made my way to the boss. Unlike the last 2 bosses, this boss actually went over just fine. His main thing is that he has a long-range attack that creates a crystal, and if you don't break the crystal in time, it spawns another enemy. It's really not that hard to break the crystal, and funny enough, I think this fight was actually easier solo. See, when I had a companion, he was doing a lot more of those long-range attacks on my companion who was standing further away. But here, once I got in close, he pretty much just stopped spawning them. And here we see Jack. We saw him for a second earlier when he seemingly killed Nicola, but now we actually see him stab a woman with a rock. Hey Yakumo, you wanna use that gun again? The gun never comes back, by the way. He just used it the once. He didn't even shoot it, really. Jack just kinda nopes his way out of there, and then we all get confused because we don't know where to go next. The Russian wakes up and tells us where to go to progress the game.
I'm not sure of the path there myself. Other than that, it's sealed off by my asthma.
Well, bring an inhaler. Also, her name is Mia, so I can stop calling her the Russian. She also had a vision where she saw a snowy place that had Nicola, even though he's dead. And now we're off to Anor Londo. I decided to camouflage myself with the environment. This place is actually really cool. I like the fact that it's solid white. It creates a sense of disorientation as you start to question what's what. It's complex in layout, but it's not so complex that I was getting lost. Mostly due to the helpful mini-map in the top corner. I really like this place. I also spoke to some more people back at home base. I gave some gifts to Yakumo because he had something I wanted. I gave him some garlic flakes. And I know that he's a vampire, so maybe that wasn't a good idea, but he actually said that they were
pretty good once you actually get it in your mouth.
But despite that, the game said that he hated it. You're giving me mixed messages here, man. Also, Io says that she's
unable to fight.
Which is a bold-faced lie. She's probably one of the best companions in the game. After a while of being in anal rodeo, I made it to the first boss of the area. The hardest part was making it to the boss without taking damage. I also found out that he could be backstabbed, I thought that backstabs in this game were very inconsistent at first, but after a while I was able to pull them off pretty reliably, so I think I just wasn't used to it yet. I think you can also parry him, but to be fair, I was never really good at parries in Dark Souls either. After that, we get the option to go to a new location, the option to go back in time. We get to go to our memories. And I forgot to get changed first. Whoops. Karen! I actually really like this part of the game. Partially because it's one of the first points where things actually get explained a bit. We're in this war zone, and we're actually working with Jack, the guy who seems to have killed a kid and stabbed a lady. Well, working with him, in theory anyway. I work alone. He tells you that we're off to go fight the Queen, and he even shows you that we can use her blood to activate the mantles. So why were we able to do it with just our blood? We were specifically instructed not to drink the Queen's blood. Once again, I thought this part was going to be a lot harder than it was, but I did it and I made it to the boss. Why don't more games use jiggle physics for hair? It looks nice. After defeating the boss, the Queen shows up and we did the one thing we weren't supposed to. We drank the Queen's blood. This is most likely why we can access the memories and activate the mantles with our own blood. Jack shoots us through the heart, which is supposedly the only way to kill a vampire, but we New Vegas him and come back anyway. Afterwards, we go back to the city in the sky and make our way to the first successor. The successors are basically super vampires. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what their purpose is. I think it's to protect the Queen's memories, but I'm not sure. But they do make for some pretty cool boss fights. Before fighting the first successor, we're stopped by Io? Nah, it's just some lady who looks like her. I do know why these ladies exist. They're designed to protect the successors. They were made by Cruz, Louis's little sister, and also the Queen. So the Queen has layers of protection now. But this lady will also restore the memories of Aurora. That's right, the giant furry in that room over there used to be Aurora. After we defeat the boss, we go into another one of Aurora's memories. Turns out she became a god because of her lady boner for Karen. We even get to meet her in person, sort of. Oh no. Boop. Yeah, if you get all the memories, you get the option to revive the successor afterwards. You do have the option not to, though, if you just don't feel like it. Unfortunately, she does, however, have to stay as a big furry demon. Underneath the city, we find
Karen.
She apparently created the city, and now she's stuck in it, with questionable dress wear. On our way back up, we get another cutscene with Jack, and I'm not gonna lie, this cutscene rocks.
Careful. He's stronger than he looks.
We'll do our best to shield you. Just remember to protect your heart.
Very well. In that case.
This cutscene features the song Underworld by the band VAMPS. And that really makes me wonder something. The sound design of this game is not fantastic. And its music really isn't that great either. But in this cutscene, we get this cool fight scene with this metal accompaniment. And I just have to ask, why doesn't this game have a heavy metal soundtrack? Seriously, it would fit the tone of the game so much better. And I realize I'm saying that because it's edgy, but it is. And most of my time with this game, I was listening to metal music over it anyway, and it fit pretty well. But no, instead we get whatever this is. I actually had to go and mix the audio myself because originally the music was louder than they're talking. But yeah, real missed opportunity there. The fight ends with Jack running away again. And now we must make our way to Skyrim. I got myself all festive for this venture, which ended up being a little awkward.
Nicola, a successor.
So I have two major issues with this area. One is those ice pits, but they're not so bad after the first time, so that's kind of a minor issue. And the second is these ballet dancing jackwads. I kid you not, these are the hardest enemy in the game. They get the ability to put themselves in ice armor that makes them resistant to almost all damage, and they move faster when they do. And this ability is not limited in any way, so if you break it with fire attacks, which is the only way you can break it, they can just put it back on again. I got really lucky here, because 2 of them jumped off a cliff and the other one got stuck in a cliff. If I didn't get this lucky, I genuinely might not have made it past this area alone. And that's not just my opinion either, it seems pretty widely accepted that these guys just suck. But it's worth it, because we make it to the boss and... look at this guy. He looks awesome! Usually when a game tries to have some sort of Norse-themed knight, they'll use like goat horns or elk horns, but this guy, they just give him moose horns and they look badass. He beats up a few children before the fight, and even during the boss fight itself, he killed me a couple times by punching me in the face. Also, he has a jetpack. He's got a freaking jetpack. Eventually I won, and it turns out that this is actually Nicola. He was never dead. He apparently just had the ability to create clones of himself. I guess successors are basically just stand users. Oh, and he is a successor, by the way. Once he's revived, he gets to keep the boss armor. This fact alone makes me like him that much more. Look at how cute he is with the little hat. I love him. After heading back, Eva shows up, the lady that was working with Jack, and tells us that Jack isn't actually evil. I guess that makes sense. The things that we thought he did was kill a kid and stab a lady, and they're both fine, so I guess he hasn't done anything wrong. He headed off to the crypt, and Eva wants us to go save him from a man named Mito, who might be responsible for all the bad things in the world. I dressed myself up ready to go spelunk, and went to the crypt. There's really not much to say about this place. We find Jack, thank him for his services, and make our way to the boss. This boss fight was actually pretty tough. Not as tough as those first 2 bosses, but tough nonetheless. He doesn't offer a whole lot of breathing room, but once you get his pattern down, you can beat him. Afterwards, we get a sort of awkward scene where we pick up a memory that the boss left behind, but it's not really a cutscene. They're all kind of just standing there. Here we learn that Mito is bad. I mean, look at him. I headed to the next place pretty quick. I dressed like a wannabe wrestler with 2 pairs of sunglasses for maximum epic because this next place was fire. Literally. Definitely not figuratively though, this place actually kind of sucks. There's another awkward scene here where we find another memory, except all of the lines are recycled.
It's him.
And you don't even walk through the memory, it just kind of like plays out in front of you. The boss, however, is pretty good. I like that when you walk up into the fight, she's like, "What? Dear Lord, that does not look comfortable." Once you beat her, you go through her memories again. You meet her again at the end, but since I collected all of her memories prior, the part where she fails to confess her love to Yakumo is completely undercut by the fact that I revive her 2 seconds later. She still fails to tell him too.
Always loved your onigiri. I can't get enough. That's all.
Oh, was that it? Well, you're in luck. Because for you, I'm happy to make as many as you like, as often as you want.
How do you even eat? Then Mito shows up, and our giant new cat girlfriend just mysteriously vanishes. Jack tries to help. He fails. Turns out Mito kidnapped Eva and is planning to make her the next successor, so off we go to the desert to save her. You ever feel like you're just going through Mario worlds? I dressed myself deserty, and we head off. This place has a gimmick where the sand eats your ichor, so you can't use some of your gifts, but it doesn't stop me from judo flipping, so it wasn't so bad. The biggest issue I have with this area is actually the boss. The boss itself is fine, I actually kind of like it. But the walk back there is so long. It sucks. I see no reason they couldn't have just put a mantle closer to the boss fight, other than to make you question your life choices. I had a similar issue with the Ornstein and Smo boss fight from Dark Souls, but at least here it's not a 2-on-1 boss fight, so I'll give it that. Afterwards, we go into Eva's memories, and I'm not gonna lie, this part is actually pretty sweet, and it even makes Jack out to be more than just an edgelord. But then, of course, we just kinda...
The relics.
And from here on, the game actually kinda picks up, funny enough. The environment design and enemy placement gets a lot more treacherous, and the enemies themselves become a lot tougher too, including the bosses, starting with Castlevania. Since I got all festive for the snow area, I decided to get all spoopy for the castle area. Here we can actually find memories for Rin and learn more about her backstory. I always respect characters that improve my weapons and sell me stuff, so I was really curious about her. Apparently she used to be this total badass, and then her squad got overrun by a bunch of losts and she was in danger. So the squad did what was best and they knocked her out because they only saw her as a daughter. Are you serious? That's so condescending and ignorant. The game explains that she was having a hard time making decisions under pressure, but I don't think knocking her out was the solution. Also, she's 16, so her outfit is... Alright. You do you, Japan. And now, here we are. The hardest boss in the game. Orenstein and Smo. So, I did actually set a bit of a rule for myself. If a boss manages to kill me 10 times or more, I'm allowed to start using companions. But only for the boss fight. Until now, nothing actually managed to do that. But this boss, it broke me. It's probably the only boss that's actually balanced for 2 people. So I brought Io into the fight, and then I beat the boss first try. Yeah, remember when she said she couldn't fight? Thanks, babe. Now, leave. And then, right after that boss fight, you have another boss fight, this time with Mito, and I don't like his boss fight. He has 2 phases, and each phase has its own attack that pads out the boss fight. One of them is similar to the poison ball from the Flower Lady fight. The only option is to keep running away from it until it vanishes, but now he can actually spawn another one before the first one vanishes, so you can just be stuck there forever. In the second phase, he spawns these little black balls that hover around you until they close in and explode, and you have to be ready to dodge out of the way of them, so you just kind of wait for that to happen before you can attack again, and sometimes you'll just do it again. The fight's not that bad. As a matter of fact, I did it in half the attempts it took me for the boss fight prior. It's just annoying. Before you fight him, though, he does something to Silva that makes it to where the red mist goes away. Turns out that there's these massive big old monsters in the red mist, and he wants to kill them. It doesn't really work, but Silva is now kind of losing his mind, so now we need to go take his place and rekindle the flame. After that, we arrive back at the war zone. I actually think that this is really cool, the fact that we get to go back to the place that was in our memories. It has a sort of neat novelty to it. I even put my old uniform on. The enemies here actually put up a really good fight. I had to be pretty careful. But it was never unfair as long as you keep an eye out for bogeys. Even the boss at the end is actually the same one as the one from your memories, except now he's all jacked up. Didn't stop me from taking him out first try like a real programmer. And now we enter the last area. I decided to dress myself up to look more like a revenant here, which is to say I dress normally, but I look like I'm going to a black metal concert. This place is once again pretty dang tough. The enemies dish out big numbers and damage, and they creep out of every nook and cranny. They even come in packs now. There's even these guys who call out to their buddies to beat you up and take your lunch money. But you see, with the axe specifically, you can actually cheese these guys. It's called press X. And don't stop. You'll stun lock him to death. This works on almost all of them, by the way. We also learn about the last few Io wannabes here. Most of them fail, and Io gets really existential about it.
If all we can do is stand by and watch, while we lose the ones we've been charged to protect, then does our presence serve any purpose?
Right before the last boss fight room, you get a talk with more Io wannabes. That's part of what it means to be complete. Or, that's part of what it means to be alive. Oh, of course there's a typo right at the end. Now, full disclosure, I've never beaten the final boss prior to this playthrough. Not that I couldn't. I never actually started the fight. I kind of wanted to go and get all the memories first, and then I got distracted by something shiny, and then I forgot to finish the game. But this time, I was ready. I had all the memories that I needed, all I had to do was fight him. But I kind of broke my rule a little bit. I brought Io with me on this fight. I did try to fight him a few times beforehand solo, but he seemed like he was going to be a pretty tough fight. I don't know if I died 10 times, but I was so close to the end of the game and I really just kind of wanted to finish it. I'm pretty sure that if I kept at it, I probably could have beat him alone. I got really close a couple times, but in the end I just use Io. So after you beat him the first time, he calls on the power of the Dragon Balls to turn into a god. There's actually a part in this cutscene where our character speaks. And you know what? It's bad, poorly voice acted, corny, and I love it.
No. I refuse to let the world end here.
So the first phase, despite the fact that I did end up bringing Io with me, I would still say it was a good fight. The second phase? Not so much. He's not hard. I beat him on my second attempt. But he's just a health sponge. He's really big, so it's really hard to tell what attack he's telegraphing. And he also has this one attack that I avoided once, and I don't know how. Eventually I found out he takes more damage if you attack his bigger set of hands. I don't know how or why I was supposed to know that, but sure, I'll take it. After a while, we finally defeat the beast, and Io offers to sacrifice herself to make the world a better place. She does, and they use this song at the end that feels so out of place. It sounds like a modern Disney song, but we're sitting in a throne room of blood, so it's a little tone deaf. At least put it in minor key or something, jeez. Afterwards, the successors get returned to their normal forms, and we head outside of the mist to try and do our part to make the world a better place.
Ew.
It's a pretty standard ending, but I like it more than most anime endings. It doesn't feel like it's trying to wrap up all of its plot threads in one big expositional bow, and it offers closure without spelling everything out too much. It's an above-average anime plot, a solid C+ in my book. We get yet another sappy song, followed by an edgy metal song in the end credits, and it makes me once again question this game's soundtrack. So let's go back to that question at the beginning. Now that I've played through most of the game without a companion, what are my thoughts? Well, aside from the business at the beginning with those first two bosses, I wouldn't say that my experience with the game without companions is a worse one. It does make the plot a bit odd when all the characters act like they've been by your side the whole time when they've actually been in your back pocket, but the gameplay didn't suffer. There's actually a bit of a debate at the moment about whether or not Souls-like games should have difficulty settings. I don't think they should, as difficulty settings are the whole reason I thought I wouldn't like hard games in the first place. But this companion system could actually offer accessibility for those who are just starting off. I actually thought I was going to have a much harder time with the areas later in the game, but I actually didn't. I actually had an easier time this playthrough than I did my first playthrough where I was using companions. To be fair, I was using bayonets that run, which I've since been told probably aren't very good. But I think the real reason it was easier is because without companions, I was simply forced to get better at the game. So the companion system was actually pretty well balanced in the end. And I think it offers an alternative to difficulty settings that is less artificial. The character customization was a ton of fun, the bosses were really memorable. I think I recommend this game overall. Alright, so I haven't done a whole lot with this YouTube channel in quite a long time, but I kind of want to give this new format a shot. I have a few other games that I want to talk about, so look out for those in the future, and let me know what you think. I'm sort of just trying to keep myself occupied while under the pressure of current events, so hopefully this catches on. Thanks for watching.